Update. Am I the a-hole for posting a photo of my stepdad walking me down the aisle? Original post. For context, I'm 23F, and my relationship with my bio dad, 45M, has always been strained. When I was little, he cheated on my mom, 45F, and basically left me and my little sister Belle, 21F, for his new wife Amanda, 35F. Mom remarried when I was 10. Her husband Jason, 48M, came into our lives 2 years after Dad walked out. Jason has been the one who actually stepped up and acted like a dad to Belle and me. My bio dad didn't show up for my wedding, so I guess I don't really know why I'm even writing this, but here we are. I married my partner, Daniel, 24M, on August 1st. The day was perfect and Jason walked me down the aisle. It meant the world to me. We went to Hawaii for our honeymoon, and when we returned, the photographer gave us a sneak peek gallery. Naturally, I shared a few photos, including the one of Jason escorting me. About an hour after I posted it, Belle rang me and asked me to take that photo down. She said our dad had called and called it disrespectful to let another man walk me down the aisle. Belle told him, "Well, you weren't even at the wedding." He reportedly answered, "I would have gone if she'd let me walk her down the aisle." For the record, there was no way I was ever going to let him do that. He hadn't been present for us for years. Jason is the one who actually showed up and raised us. Now Belle says I'm being petty and rubbing it in his face by posting the photo, and a few extended family members on his side have started lecturing me about airing family drama online. I don't see how sharing a wedding photo equals airing dirty laundry, but now I'm wondering if I'm missing something. Am I the a-hole? Top comments. Pre-update, not the a-hole. If your bio dad thinks this is disrespectful, he should look at his own record. He can't abandon you and then demand the perks of fatherhood later. Did he skip the wedding because you wouldn't let him walk you down the aisle? Or was there another reason? People point out that you can't abandon your kids, and then expect applause for showing up when it's convenient. Apparently he said he wouldn't attend because Amanda wasn't given a role. He was invited with her to avoid drama, but he still chose not to come. Also, double down. Post a follow-up thanking Jason for walking you down the aisle and for being there for you. Anyone who complains can be blocked. Not the a-hole. And another angle. Your dad did walk you down the aisle, just not biologically. Jason is family because he parented you. You calling him by name is fine. You can still call him dad in conversation to avoid confusion. You shouldn't feel guilty. He abandoned you and didn't show up for your wedding. You married the person who supported you, and the people who were there deserve to be honored. Block anyone who tries to shame you. People asked, have you only spoken to Belle about this, and could it all be coming from her? Belle has always been closer to Amanda, and has forgiven them while I haven't. I didn't speak to my dad directly since I had him blocked, and I trusted Belle enough not to think she'd invent it. Update, I didn't expect so many comments and kind words, thank you. I ended up talking to Belle, and to my dad about the situation. I told Belle to stay out of it. If she's so on his side, she can have him walk her down the aisle at her wedding. I made it clear I wasn't going to pretend he'd been a father to me when he wasn't. She didn't have much to respond with. Then I called my dad. That conversation went exactly as you'd imagine. He started with the tired line about one day I'd understand, and that I needed to learn respect. I pointed out that cheating wasn't respectful and neither was abandoning your kids, and that he hadn't been there for me since I was 10. Jason, by contrast, was there for every step. My dad hung up on me. Later, Amanda made a passive-aggressive Facebook post about family always being family. I'm like 99% sure that was aimed at me, but whatever. At the end of the day, I'm not taking the photo down. I won't make Jason upset by doing that. He deserves to be celebrated. I won't let my bio dad rewrite history, just because it makes him uncomfortable. Big life events like weddings and babies tend to drag entitlement out of people, and I'm proud of my choice to honor the person who actually showed up. To those trying to shame me, remind them that my bio dad wasn't around for our childhood, and he didn't bother to come to the wedding. Block and move on. Best wishes on my marriage. Next story teaser. Am I the a-hole for ignoring my ex's request for a sit-down with his wife and me? I'm 31F, and have 2 kids, 11 and 9, with my ex, 33M. We were never married and the relationship was never great, so the breakup wasn't the worst outcome. For a while it surprised me he left first. I always suspected his wife, 32F, was involved before the split. They told me they were a couple less than 5 months after we separated. They insisted everything moving forward would include her, because the kids would know her as their second mom. They told me to get used to hearing their partner called mom, and said they would actively encourage that. I took them to court and the judge put in a clause about step-parent/partner being called mom or dad, which annoyed them, but they still tried to show off what they could do as a couple that I couldn't as a single mom. The ex's wife bragged she'd be the mother, and would give him a bunch of babies and that would win the kids over. She said my kids would prefer her, maybe even hate me for separating them if I got jealous. I spent years documenting things and keeping calm for the kids' sake. We used a co-parenting app for communication, and they still sent messages about how she'd be favored. They were scolded for that a number of times. A few years ago, I put my kids into therapy because they were picking up on the tension between adults. The ex's wife never got pregnant. I know it sounds petty, but after all the gloating about how the kids would prefer. Update. Am I the a-hole for posting a photo of my stepdad walking me down the aisle? Original post. For context, I'm 23 female, and my relationship with my biological dad, 45, has always been strained. When I was little, he cheated on my mom, 45 female, and basically left me and my younger sister Belle, 21, for his new wife Amanda, 35. My mom remarried when I was 10. Her husband Jason, 48, came into our lives 2 years after Dad left. Jason has been the one who actually stepped up and acted like a father to both Belle and me. My bio dad didn't come to my wedding, so I don't even know why I'm typing this, but here we are. I married the love of my life, Daniel, 24, on August 1st. The day was perfect and Jason walking me down the aisle meant everything. We honeymooned in Hawaii, and when we got home our photographer sent a sneak peek. Of course I posted a few photos, including the one of Jason escorting me. About an hour after I posted it, Belle called and asked me to take that photo down. She said our dad had called her and complained that it was disrespectful to let another man walk me down the aisle. Belle told him, "Well, you weren't even at the wedding." He apparently replied, "I would have gone if she'd let me walk her down the aisle." For the record, that was never going to happen. He hasn't been there for us in years. Jason is the one who actually raised us. Now Belle says I'm being petty and rubbing it in his face by sharing the picture. And some extended family on his side have started lecturing me about airing family drama online. I don't see how posting a wedding photo equals airing drama, but now I'm wondering if I missed something. Am I the a-hole? Top comments before the update, not the a-hole. If your bio dad thinks this is disrespectful, he needs to look at his own record. You can't abandon your kids and then expect the perks of fatherhood later. Did he skip the wedding because he wasn't allowed to walk you down the aisle, or for another reason? People pointed out he can't have it both ways. Apparently he wouldn't attend because Amanda wasn't given a role. He was invited with her to avoid drama but still chose not to come. Many suggested doubling down. Post a follow-up thanking Jason for walking you down the aisle and for being there for you. Anyone who complains can be blocked. Not the a-hole. Others said your dad did walk you down the aisle. Even if not biologically, Jason is family because he parented you. Calling him by his name is fine if it avoids confusion. You shouldn't feel guilty. Your dad abandoned you and didn't show up for the wedding. You married surrounded by people who supported you. Block anyone who tries to shame you. People asked if you only spoke to Belle about this, and whether it could be all coming from her since she's closer to Amanda. Belle has always been closer to Amanda, and may have forgiven them while you haven't. You hadn't spoken to your dad directly, because you had him blocked. Update. I didn't expect so many comments, thank you. I wound up talking to both Belle and my dad. With Belle I told her to stay out of it. If she's that on his side, she can have him walk her down the aisle at her wedding. I made it clear I wasn't going to pretend he'd been a father to me when he wasn't. She didn't have much to say after that. Then I called my dad. The conversation went how you'd expect. He started with the familiar, "One day you'll understand," line and lectured about respect. I reminded him that cheating wasn't respectful and neither was abandoning your children, and that he hasn't been there since I was 10. Jason, meanwhile, has been there every step of the way and is my dad to me. My father ended the call by hanging up. Later Amanda posted a passive-aggressive Facebook message about how no matter what happened in the past, you're always family. I'm pretty sure that was aimed at me. Bottom line, I'm not taking the photo down. I won't upset Jason by removing it. He deserves to be celebrated. And I'm not letting my bio dad rewrite history because it makes him uncomfortable. Big life events like weddings pull entitlement to the surface. I'm proud to honor the person who actually showed up. Block the flying monkeys and move on. Best wishes to me and my marriage. Next story. Am I the a-hole for ignoring my ex's request for a sit-down between him, his wife, and me? I'm 31 female with 2 kids 11 and 9 from my ex 33 male. We were never married and the relationship wasn't great, so the split wasn't the worst thing. I always suspected his wife, 32 female, was involved before they left, and they told me they were a couple within 5 months of our breakup. They insisted everything going forward would include her because the kids would know her as their second mom. They told me to get used to her being called Mom and said they'd encourage it. I took them to court and the judge added a clause about step-parent/partner being called Mom or Dad. That annoyed them, but they still tried to show off what they could provide as a couple that I couldn't as a single mom. The wife bragged she'd be the preferred mom and even gloat that she would give him a bunch of babies to win the kids over. I spent years documenting and staying calm for the kids' sake. We used a co-parenting app for communication. They kept sending messages about how she'd be favored and were scolded multiple times for it. A few years ago, I put the kids in therapy because they were picking up on the adult tensions. The wife never got pregnant. I know this sounds petty, but after the gloating it felt satisfying when nothing happened. Then, around July last year, my ex told me the kids would be with me longer and he'd work out a makeup schedule later. 6 weeks later, I learned his wife had attempted suicide and was hospitalized. Triggered by news she couldn't have biological children. They also told people the situation was worsened by my son not including her in a family drawing at summer camp that same day. I filed in court for a temporary custody change, and it was granted. She had to complete certain steps before the kids could return to living with her. My ex and his wife weren't happy, but since they'd used my kids as part of the story, I didn't want to risk anything. She completed the required steps and custody returned to 50-50 in February of this year. In June, my ex suggested the three of us sit down and talk. I told him anything important could be done via the app. He insisted face-to-face was better and that they wanted to improve relationships so she could be an equal parent and family member to the kids. Both of them started info dumping about her inability to have biological kids and how hurtful it is that the kids don't see her as family. They asked us to put away animosity so they could all be present for the kids, and said she realizes that won't happen while she hates my guts and wishes I'd give the kids to her. I started ignoring the meeting requests after initially saying no because I don't trust them and don't think it's a good idea. They refuse to handle this over the app. Fortunately, everything is documented in the app, and their messages include worrying comments, like hoping I'd drop the no calling a step-parent or partner mom or dad rule and similar things. When I didn't reply or agree to meet, my ex started accusing me of not putting the kids first, and said I was using the court against them. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. If they don't want these things coming up in court, they should stop doing things an authority could point to as problematic. I wanted to respond that way, but decided not to engage unless it's something genuinely important for the kids. That avoids escalation and shows the court I'm not engaging in petty fights. Good strategy. Their fertility issues, her depression, and her past actions aren't my concern. Staying focused on the kids is. If anything, she seems unstable and I worry their inability to manipulate me might push her to lash out. I keep a close eye on things, as does my kid's therapist, and will know if things deteriorate through the kids or my ex's sister who provided info before. My ex was told to stop withholding relevant information from me. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my fiancé to move out after a fight about how she treats me versus how she treats coworkers? I'm 32, male, work from home and make over $100,000 a year. My fiancé is 30, female, a doctor earning around $150 to $200,000. We live in my house. Since she's saving for residency, I never asked her to pay rent, utilities, or groceries. I handle most chores because I know her job is demanding. I cook, make sure her bed is ready, and try to make home a place where she can rest without money or chore worries. Recently, I found out she treats coworkers every single day. She admits she's a people pleaser, so I let it slide at first, but it stung. If she's that generous to others, why does it feel like everything she does for me comes with conditions? Example, when our electric bill hit about $1,000, I asked her to turn off lights. She angrily handed me $40, the only time she's ever chipped in, even though I cover roughly $800 to $1,000 a month. She complains about rides from my place to work, but even with that she saves money living here. One day she had a day off and slept well. I asked her to wash the dishes, and she called her mom to join the argument. I've told her before that bringing family into our fights is a deal breaker. Today we argued when she cheerfully told me she regularly buys food and coffee for coworkers. I said it hurts that she's generous to them but keeps score with me. She tracks everything she gives me but not what she gives them. In the heat of the moment I said, if this is how it's going to be, just move out. I know that was harsh, but I feel unappreciated, like I'm a live-in support system while she gives her best to other people. Am I the a-hole for saying that, or am I being overly sensitive and not understanding how stressful her job is? Top comments, not the a-hole. She treats you like a doormat. Good, you finally grew a spine. Calling her mom over dishes is a red flag. Imagine future arguments. This is a pattern, not stress. If she's using you while being generous to coworkers but not contributing at home, you need a serious conversation about finances and responsibilities. Many say don't marry into this, set boundaries. Not the a-hole. Last story. Am I the a-hole for paying for my little brother to have the paid school lunches, but not my step-siblings? I'm 17, female, with a younger brother nearly 15 and two step-siblings, a 15-year-old brother and a 13-year-old sister. Mom married their dad 2 years ago and finances have been tight. My high school has 2 lunch menus, a free school lunch program and a paid menu for those who have money in their lunch accounts. I started earning money to put into mine because the free menu is poor quality. When my little brother started high school last August, I paid into his account even though my mom thought he was on the free program. I wanted him to have the better lunches. My mom and her husband didn't learn this until July when my stepbrother and stepsister complained that my brother and I were getting the paid lunches. My stepbrother told my stepsister, and she was upset because she's on her middle school's free lunch program and can't have the better options. My stepbrother said he'd been stuck with lame food all year while we got burritos and rice bowls. My mom asked how my brother was getting paid lunches if he didn't have a job. I lied and said I didn't know. She said only I could be paying and wondered how I justify buying for him, but not the stepkids. I told her he's my little brother and I'll always look out for him. When she asked about my other step-siblings, I said I don't have another brother or sister. I have a stepbrother and a stepsister, and if their parents divorce, they'd no longer be my step-siblings. I said it's not my job to look out for them financially. My mom's husband argued that if I told them, they could have helped make sure the other kids got the paid lunches, but I said they'd have stopped me because they don't have the money. He said it was unfair I paid for my brother and not the other two. I said I'm paying for my sibling, not strangers. He argued they're all your siblings, but I used the same real sibling reasoning. With school starting soon, Mom told me I should pay for all 3 or she'd call me an awful person who divides the family. She said she could stop paying for everyone and accept the free lunches instead. Am I the a-hole? Top replies, not the a-hole. You're a good sister. You're 17 and working part-time. You have the right to spend your money to help your little brother. It's a kind gesture but not your obligation to upgrade everyone. You're not depriving anyone. Free lunches still feed them. If you were an adult working full-time, it might be different, but you're not obligated. Don't be parentified. Your stepfather's finances likely contributed to the family's struggles. You're doing a nice thing and not the a-hole.